Good day, everyone. I am Lian Buon reporting live here from the Senate, where we had just finished covering the Foreign Relations Committee hearing into the arrest and surrender of former President Rodrigo Duterte to the International Criminal Court. Ito yung hearing na pinangungunahan ng kapatid ng Pangulo na si Senator Imee Marcos, and the latest update today is pinag-aaralan ng Senado kung maglalabas ba sila ng subpoena doon sa mga miyembro ng gabinete ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos para i-compel or pilitin silang dumalo sa hearing ni Senator Imee Marcos. What happened today was an empty room. Halos 3 resource persons lang ang dumalo at 3 senador yung nag-preside kanina sa hearing. So, wala ring masyadong na-discuss kanina sa hearing dahil wala doon yung mga focal point person, wala doon si Secretary Remulla. Both the Remullas weren't there. General Nicolas Torre wasn't there. The DFA wasn't there. Interpol Manila weren't there. Kasi sinabi ng Malacanang through Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin na hindi na sila dadalo dahil yung mga hindi pa nila nasabi ay covered na ng executive privilege, at dahil hindi mo pwedeng sabihin o i-disclose sa publiko ang mga bagay na covered ng executive privilege ay hindi na lang daw dadalo ang gabinete ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Now, kaya yun kaya gusto sana ni Senator Imee Marcos na maglabas ng subpoena laban or para sa mga miyembro ng gabinete ni President Marcos. But if you do that, if the Senate, the legislative branch, issues a subpoena on the executive branch, it may be courting a constitutional crisis, direktang banggaan ng dalawang independent branch of government. At sinabi ni Senate President Cheese Escudero na yun precisely yung ayaw niyang mangyari, yun yung iniiwasan niya. Kaya he is taking the request under consideration, at in fact, nirefer niya na daw ito sa legal department ng Senado para hindi lang daw siya yung magde-decide. Kasi para makapag-issue ng subpoena, hindi pwedeng si Senator Imee Marcos lang yung pipirma. Kailangan the Senate as a body decides it collegially. At sabi ni Senate President Cheese Escudero, kahit abogado siya, ay ayaw niyang mag-abogado para sa kanyang sarili. Kaya i-consult niya na lang yung legal department, and he will wait for the recommendation of the legal department whether or not to issue subpoena. Initially, yung dalawang taong gustong ipasubpoena ni Senator Imee Marcos ay yung hepe ng Air Force, kung bakit pinayagang makalipad yung eroplanong yun, because they had a lot of questions about who owns the plane. And then si Prosecutor General Richard Fadulion, the top prosecutor of the DOJ, who was there, who served the warrant on former President Rodrigo Duterte. Pero bago matapos ang hearing kanina, merong motion from her and Senator Bato de la Rosa na ipasubpoena na lahat. So again, it's being taken under consideration by the Senate through its legal department. So kanina, it was really an empty room. 3 lang silang senador na nagdi-discuss, salitan lang sila. And so they were not able to discuss much. So ang na-discuss lang nila kanina ay sino ba yung may-ari ng Gulfstream 550 na sinakyan ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. The Marcos government has come out in public to say that it is on a multi-year lease to the Office of the President. So, nirerentahan ng Office of the President yung eroplanong yun, and has in fact been used by President Marcos on a number of occasion on official duty. Pero gustong malaman ni Senator Imee Marcos kanina is the private company which owned the plane. But she couldn't really definitively establish who owned the plane. Meron siyang mga sinasabing mga different names of companies, but walang definitive na pag-establish kung sino ba ang may-ari. Pati yung Securities and Exchange Commission na merong representative kanina ay hindi rin masabi kung sino ba yung may-ari nun, because wala rin naman daw silang advanced request for those kinds of documents. Ang isa rin lumabas kanina sa hearing ay sinasabi ni Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa na yung may-ari ng eroplano ay pwedeng parusahan under the executive order of US President Donald Trump sanctioning anyone who helped the ICC. It's a big deal in the global scene because the executive order of President Donald Trump is widely objected to ng buong global human rights community, and all 125 member states of the ICC are also likely to object to it kasi may sweeping impact yung executive order na yun ni President Donald Trump. Kahit pa ang original motive nun ay para protektahan si Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, ay dahil yung wording ng executive order ay pwedeng makaapekto sa kahit sino mang bansa o kahit sino mang tao na tutulong sa ICC in any capacity, ay baka mabigyan ng travel prohibition, hindi makapunta sa Amerika, ma-freeze yung mga asset nila sa Amerika, mawalan ng US funding. And this is precisely what Senator De La Rosa was proposing kanina, na tignan actually he said the committee is under moral obligation to transmit its findings to the US so that President Donald Trump can see if the owners of the plane are in fact covered by the executive order. Yun yung ilan sa mga lumabas. But the bulk of the hearing was Senator Imee Marcos detailing previously undisclosed details of the ICC investigation. Kasi we know, Rappler knows for a fact na meron talagang mga pumasok dito na ICC personnel last year. But the identities of the Office of the Prosecutor personnel have never been discussed, and in fact, they are sensitive details. Pero sinabi ni Senator Imee Marcos yung mga pangalan nila and yung mga designation nila sa ICC, we are yet to independently verify that with the Bureau of Immigration kasi yun yung sinasite na source ni Senator Imee Marcos. And aside from disclosing their identities, naglabas din siya ng document di umano ng Office of the Prosecutor ng ICC na nagdedetalye ng agenda nila nung bumisita sila dito. And when you look at that document, it bears sensitive details such as the witnesses that they wanted to interview. I can see some familiar names there, some are government officials. They also wanted to go to the East Avenue Medical Center para tignan yung mga details ng mga dead on arrival na mga nanlaban suspects sa Oplan Tokhang. So that's what Senator Imee Marcos wanted to know. Kanina, gusto niyang malaman yung detalye ng extent of cooperation ng Marcos government. The trouble with disclosing all of these details is that it may be seen as endangering the investigation of the ICC. And if you endanger the investigation of the ICC, that is a disadvantage to the client, which is former President Rodrigo Duterte. Kasi isa sa mga titignan ng ICC kung papayagan ba nilang makalaya pansamantala si President Duterte, hindi ba malalagay sa panganib yung investigasyon? Wala bang malalagay sa panganib ng mga biktima? So we're not sure if Senator Imee Marcos realized that when she was disclosing the sensitive details of the OTP's field visit here to the Philippines. Back to the subpoena, Senator Jesus Corredors more or less says that he believes hindi naman pwedeng gamitin blanket cover ang executive privilege, pero gusto niya daw maging maingat, ayaw niyang mag-cause ng isang constitutional crisis. That's why he says he'll refer it to the legal department instead. And at the end of the day, you could say na yung gustong malaman ng committee ni Senator Imee Marcos, the operational details of the arrest and surrender, and the extent of cooperation of the Marcos government, lahat ng confusion, lahat ng dispute ay nagmumula doon naman sa indecisive stance ni President Marcos if he really is for the ICC or not. Kasi he has said, we will not cooperate, there's no jurisdiction, but on the same breath, let's the arrest happen on Philippine soil, and that's why the progressive bloc of the political opposition is calling on him na to take a firm stance na lang and rejoin the International Criminal Court once and for all. That's the latest update from the Senate. This is Lian Buan reporting.